He's been working on that thing for weeks. What kind of lightsaber could he possibly build with the junk we have laying around?
What's up, everybody? Today I have a very special video to show off. This is a lightsaber that I gave myself a 10-day challenge while in quarantine, locked in the bedroom all alone, with just a micro mill and all of like the parts that I've found over the years throughout my travels, and so basically gave myself a 2-week challenge to pull this off. 10 days to 2 weeks, because by the time I make the video and everything, get it mailed out, it's about 2 weeks. But after 10 days in the bedroom, I had a working saber, which is a new record for me in install time. But I did not cut any corners. The thing that sped this process up probably the most was I 3D printed a chassis this time on my Ender 5 Pro. And the chassis was printed before I started this build, but I wanted to kind of test out the new capabilities of the Ender 5 Pro with silk PLA metallic filaments, and so I wanted to make the interior of this look as metallic and metal as possible. I think it came out pretty cool. So we're gonna dive in. Again, this is a gift for my good friends Dawn and Justin down in Florida, who are amazing people and have reached out to a lot of people during a tough year during COVID and stuff like that. So this is my thank you to the two of them for just being amazing humans. And yeah, so let's get started on this right away, because this is Justin and Dawn's tutorial video on how to operate this saber, and there's quite a bit to it. So let's get started. So right now the saber is activated as far as like the power switch is on in the pommel. And so what I want to show you is, if you got it on display, obviously with the power off, what you would do to get to the internals and turn on the switch is you're going to go ahead and pull off the saber tooth. This is a 3D printed saber tooth that's been stained and weathered to look, used. And so I also put epoxy on the inside of it to kind of give it some weight and thicken up the walls after it was 3D printed, so this thing is super tough. So basically what you're going to do is unscrew the pommel cap right away to get to the interior, and here is your speaker pod. All you got to do is just give this a gentle pull. It comes right out, and I wanted to show you guys the speaker is in here. This is a 28mm bass speaker. Gave you a grill so nothing can damage it. And then on the flip side, you've got 3 alignment holes that are super tight tolerances, and then you have these little pins right here that plug into the back of the receiving end of the pins on this side. And we're gonna show all that when I get the chassis out of here. But basically, as like a rule of thumb, you're gonna want to shut this off, guys. Because there are rumors out there that the moisture from your hands and the oil from your hands, and then as far as the green blade plug goes, you can just pull this out. This is a pressure fit. You don't need to use the retention screw to hold this in, so it'll just pull straight out. Okay, but here is your NeoPixel blade pins, because I know you guys wanted blade animation, and this is the only way to do it. And so I've read online that there's been a couple of cases where, people have like put their fingers or their thumb in here to try to push out a chassis, and it can short out the pins. I personally have not had that happen yet, but I thought I'd throw it in the video as just a precaution so that before you push your thumb or finger in here to push the chassis out, make sure you turn off the power. And it's always a good idea to have the power off anyways when you're moving the chassis in and out. So here we go, power switch right here, off, and then you're gonna turn around and just take your thumb and just push on the front of it, and it will pop out. There you go. And pull the chassis out. So here is the 3D printed chassis. And there's your NeoPixel pins in the front. I've made an acrylic disc to protect the pins so they can't bend. And these are spring loaded like this. So very safe stuff right here. On the back side, let's go over that. So what I like to do is always orientate the chassis, which would be technically upside down compared to the hilt. So it would kind of be like this is how it would go in. And the reason I do that is because then the power switch is on the top. And when it's to the left, of course, it's off. And then naturally, once you turn it on to the right, it powers up. And you're going to actually see light from the crystal chamber come up through the end of the acrylic. And so the next step down is your SD card access. You only need to worry about these next two parts. If you guys want to get into programming this thing, if you want to go to Profi school and learn how to, put new sound fonts on it or change the blade effects, it's pretty in-depth stuff. But there's lots of videos out there I can send to you if you guys want to learn. And so you'd need a pair of tweezers, super fine tweezers, to get in there and pull out this SD card that holds all of the Saber's sound fonts and sounds. Currently, there are 91 sound fonts on here, which is like the Saber's basically has like 91 different personalities. These are sound fonts that I've collected over the years. A lot of free ones that I've gone in and edited old Saber fonts to the new smooth swing format, which I'll get into later. And then the port below that is your USB data interface port for the sound card. So both of these two ports here, you're not going to use unless you get into changing the sounds or reprogramming the blade effects through this port here. This right here is your recharge port, and I made you a magnetic one because over time, these micro USB ports, if you guys know on maybe some other toys or other devices, they do wear out if you use them over and over again. So I like to use these magnetic ports on here because they're just super convenient. So this is what I'm sending you, magnetic recharge, and basically you just hold it up there and it automatically pops in there and starts charging. Now you can see a red glow. You can plug it in with the Saber on or the Saber off. And so you've got this shows that it just has power going to the connector, and then the red light in there shows that it's charging. And when it's done charging, that red light will turn to green, means it's fully charged. But another cool thing I wanted to send you guys, something new I discovered recently, is that on the end of this, the other end of this charge cable, I found a device that plugs into your USB charger that plugs into the wall. And this right here shows that right now the output is approximately 5 volts, which is USB voltage. And then above that is your amount of amps that are going into the Saber lithium battery. And this inside of this is a 1 amp charge circuit. And so it'll usually run about 0.8 when the battery is kind of medium, down to medium drain. And then as the battery charges up, this amp number will slowly go down until it gets to 0. When it's all zeros, that means your Saber's fully charged. So these are kind of cool because you can see, earlier than just waiting for this light to turn green, you can see when your Saber is going to be ready to use. So I wanted to show that. These are sweet. So I'm including this with it. All right, so we've gone over the charge. Let's go ahead and unplug. And then before you reinstall your speaker pod to reinstall it back into the hilt, you're going to want to make sure to remember to turn on your power. You'll see it boot up. And then you'll notice there's a tiny female speaker pinhole here and one here. And then you've got a post here, here, and here. And so what you're going to do is you take those 3 posts here, here, and here. They have very tight tolerances, and then you can take these pins and drop them into the holes. You want to be kind of gentle with this. But one of the things that I like to do that kind of makes it a little easier to make sure you're getting it in properly, and I'll explain more about this after we get it into the hilt, is I wanted to show you how this goes together because, you know, you want to be gentle with this part of it. And so I go ahead and fire up the saber. So you just hit the button once, okay? And now you can see that the accent lighting is on. Of course, the crystal chamber's doing some crazy flickery stuff because the blade's activated. And then this shows your blade color, what it'll be when you go to plug in your blade. So what I like to do is fire it up. That way, it's sending sound to these two female pins. And then you can take this, and you see this bottom hole right here, you line it up, and then you line up the other two holes, and then you see that the pins are gonna go into the female ports, and you'll hear the speaker start to make noise. Then you just give it a gentle push, kind of pop it into place, and then you can hear it's plugged in. And you can display this chassis, you know, outside of the hilt like this. And when we get into the Bluetooth functionality for the phone app, I will show you how you can control this chassis outside of the hilt with your phone. So, let's shut her down, which you hit and hold, the main button. And so this is a one-button saber, which I love. Everything you do for the saber is, you know, one tactile switch, which is a lot of fun because you kind of learn like this one-button operating system for the Profi board sound card, and you'd be amazed at how much stuff this button can do. So to get it back in the hilt, you're gonna basically line it up so that you can see that this button is on the top, and then you're gonna rotate this around the hilt, and this right here is a custom button that I've made that's spring-loaded out of a 256 bolt, and so there is actually an ink pen spring in there that Barbara provided, that the plunger comes down into the inside of the hilt and hits this button right here. So all you got to do is make sure that you have your CoverTech wheel, which, by the way, Justin, you can clamp this, or Dawn, you can clamp this onto your belt. This is a CoverTech wheel. This clamps onto your belt because I know you guys want to take this to Galaxy's Edge. And then I put it on the micro mill and actually put an extra channel in here so that it doesn't interfere with the button when you put it on and off the CoverTech wheel. So all you do with this is you just, you know, slide it on, it'll click into place, and then to release it, you squeeze these two together and then it will let go of this wheel so that it won't fall off your belt. These are awesome. All right, so going back into the hilt, you want to make sure that your CoverTech wheel is in the upward direction, your button is in the upward direction, and you're going to slide this in. And let's see if I can get this on camera, and you're basically going to slide it in until, whoops, look at that, sensitive. Basically gonna slide it in until this button ends up underneath the CoverTech wheel. All right, so here we go, nice and easy. And then you can take the bottom of the speaker and just give it an extra little push, and then give it kind of a firm push, and you'll feel it stop completely. And you know you got it lined up when you go to hit this button, and it ignites. All right? So there, you're lined up. Now, you're gonna take your pommel and just kind of gently screw it into place. It should go on super easy if everything's lined up properly. No resistance whatsoever. Super smooth. If you feel resistance, maybe kind of like, you know, back out, kind of adjust the speaker, make sure it's centered in there and everything and seated properly. And actually, you can kind of fire up the saber and that'll let you know that your pins haven't let go or anything, you know, because you don't want to bend those pins. So let's just do that. And actually, let me see if I can show you the difference between the speaker just sort of being out in the open. How quiet it is. And then when you give it a good sound chamber, watch this. Once you give it a good solid sound chamber, and the speaker may, you know, kind of cut out here and there a couple times until this seats up against it because this holds the pins in place at the perfect tolerance. So we'll go ahead and screw it in. And we felt no resistance all the way down, and so you're gonna snug it, and then look how loud it is. Way louder. All right, so let's go over the button functions. To shut it down, you're gonna hit and hold the button. And so what I'm gonna do is pull out the iPad here, and I actually have a list of the button functions that I'm going to print out and include in the box. I'm sure you guys will find this. And so here they all are. So I'm just going to go over them real quick so you kind of get a feel for how long you have to push the button down for each of these. So I'm going to set this off to the side and read from it. We'll go down the list. All right, here we go. So you can activate the saber. Quick click activates the saber. Okay. If you want to mute the saber, let's say you don't want to hear it. You want to go around and swing it around in silence, you double click. Okay, so now the saber's muted, but it is on. The blade is now activated. Okay. To shut off the saber, you're going to hit and hold the button until the saber goes out. Okay. The next one on the list is if you want to play any of the music tracks that are attached to these fonts, you're going to go ahead and hold down the aux button and then smack the hilt. Oop, I hit that hard. Good thing it's tough. So good old DJ Crafty Cuts, Star Wars mix.
There came a time of revolution when rebels united to challenge a tyrannical empire.
Okay, now that covered the music. So then your next preset, you're basically going to hit and hold the button for like 1 second. So it would be like 1/1000, let go. Okay. And do it again. 1/1000, let go. So it's advancing to the next font. Again, there's 91 of them for you to go through. You can go forward and backward through the font list. Doing what I just did goes forward. To go the other direction, you hit and hold until you hear the phrase. Now you're going the opposite. Okay? That's previous preset. So when you go to activate the saber, of course, fast click, and then to activate blade lockup, which would simulate like when you're clashing blades with someone else and holding them together, you are going to click and hold the button and then smack the hilt. And this activates the blade lockup. And you're going to get all kinds of effects on the blade. And then when you let go, it stops. Now to do tip drag on the blade effects, you're going to do the same thing. So as long as the blade is in the upward direction, it'll do lockup mode. If it's in the downward direction, you are going to do the same thing, hit and hold the one button and smack it. And you're going to notice on the tip of your blade, it's going to be lit up, like going all crazy, like you're dragging the tip on the ground, along on the ground. Okay? Now your blaster blocks, like if you were deflecting blaster blocks, you'll actually get animations on the blade for that. Quick, just taps. Okay? Then your force effects, which are kind of hidden little Easter egg sound files in there. You're going to do the same thing, but with the saber activated by holding for a second and letting go. So it'd be like 1/1000.
You made a fair screaming about it can't help you.
So there's quotes.
It's not wise, said a Wookiee.
There's quotes in there. There's force sounds, all kinds of things. And then probably one of the coolest things about one of the newer operating systems on the Profi OS is the ability to color change. And so you have to hold the hilt in the downward direction, and then you're going to hit and hold the button for 1 second again until you hear like a beep or a different type of sound. Because some of the sound files have like a beep mode that it goes into when you're going into color change, and then some of them have like dedicated sounds that match the actual font. So we're in the downward direction. You're going to hit and say, 1/1000 and let go. 1/1000, let go. Now we're in color change. So if you notice, all you do is rotate the hilt in either direction, clockwise or counterclockwise, and it'll change the blade color from top to bottom. This affects pretty much everything except white blades. White blades, you won't see much of a change at all, except maybe to the blaster effects or the lockup effects. But this is your main blade color on all effects other than white. Okay? And so to get out of that menu, let's say, okay, we want to go back to, because this is Luke Jedi Blue, so we're going to go back to the lightest blue we can find, and it's real obvious when it's on the blade. And then we're going to click and hold the button until we hear a sound again. There. Now that memorizes the color you selected for the saber, and then you're just gonna hit and hold to shut down. All right, that's kind of the basics of how you operate this as far as the button goes on all the different effects. Now let's go over some of the blade plug functions. I'm gonna send you 2 different types of what they call blade retention screws. This one is more of a decorative one because the diameter is a little smaller on it, and I wanted it to match the the copper clamp card. And so with this green blade plug, and this is called a photonic green blade plug, this is just a nice tight friction fit because I didn't want you to have to tighten this to keep it from flying out, because it will dent the acrylic over time, or polycarbonate is what this is, very strong stuff. But it will dent it, these blade retention screws. And so to keep this one nice and clean, you don't want to use this on this blade plug at all. You just kind of want to, like, slide it in and out. What's cool about this is a specially treated type of polycarbonate called photonic green, and it enhances blue LEDs. So kind of no matter what, most of your colors in the blue and the green and the yellow range are going to look very green coming through this, which is a pretty cool effect with this, theme for the hilt, Rancor and all that stuff. But if you fire up the saber, you'll notice that you can see the light coming through the single pixel that I have in the emitter. But then when you push this in, you just give it a nice little snug push. It has its own 5 pixels built into the end of the blade plug. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but it does some pretty, probably not, because the camera washes it out. But one of the cool things about this one is, as kind of a special feature, I decided to make this saber have a special function, which is a shrink ray. Because what better way to intimidate your enemies than to show them a shrunken down version of themselves? So here we go. Let's let the fun begin. You've got everything from your Aliens theme, which I think is kind of ironic because it also reminds me of the worm in the asteroid that the Millennium Falcon has barely escaped. I think that's kind of weird. I wonder if they used each other's design concept. You've got some Doctor Who stuff in here. They all fit inside. Of course, Harry Potter. Got to watch out for the Dementors. Yep. And then everybody knows what this is, hopefully by now. And then, of course, more Harry Potter. We got some glow-in-the-dark Voldemort action. And then last but not least, your fearsome Rancor, because, that's what this hilt's all about, right? So all you do is drop him in there, and then drop the blade plug in on top of it, or this part of it. Yep, and then off you go. You can put him in there and then pull it out, show your enemies, and they're going to run screaming because they don't want to mess with you if you got one of these, right? So the other type of blade plug I'm sending you is a frosted blade plug. This also has a Space Window Industries 5-pixel chip in the end of it, which just makes these blade plugs amazing looking and super bright. Here's the end of it. And so this one will fly out because the diameter is slightly smaller. And so if you just kind of gently hold it in with this smaller one, you're good to go. So you just kind of, the pins are spring loaded. So you just kind of barely push it in and then just give this a snug, just slightly. That's all you got to do. So when you fire it up, this one is true to color. That's why I wanted to give you 2 of them, because this one has like a white frosted kind of side to it. Okay. And so this will truly represent what colors you're changing your blade to and stuff. These are just kind of nice to have because A, they look cool, and B, you can swing your saber around indoors with low ceilings. You don't have to worry about smacking into anything. Whereas with the blade, you're probably going to want to take that outside. Or I know you have the high ceilings in the one room, so that'll work. So. All right. Okay, we'll take that blade plug out, and then we're going to pull out this blade retention screw and put in kind of the beast one, which is going to be for your blade. Because you can really crank down hard on this one. You're going to need to do that to make the blade feel nice and secure, no wobbling or anything. So here it is. It's kind of like a, it's got like a hex shape to it almost, and it's much bigger. So all you do is take that one out, rotate this one into place. There we go. And then we'll grab the blade. Now, before you put the blade in, you want to make sure that you haven't screwed it in so far that, you know, this is raised or the blade won't go in. So you want to keep this kind of out nice and loose, and then grab the blade. Make sure I don't hit anything. And then, yeah, just slide the blade into place. You can rotate it because this has a 3-ring connector on it right here and pogo pins. So you're not going to hurt anything by rotating the blade into place. So that's fine if you just kind of want to wiggle it. Kind of the newer generation pin style, which has been amazing. And so then you're going to tighten this pretty much as hard as you can tighten it. And you get in there and you crank it down as hard as you can. And then let me see how much of the blade effects I can get on here with the camera as is. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's go through a couple fonts just to show you what this bad boy can do. All right. Watch for that dust on the blade, right? There's your lockup effects. Oh, that's tip drag because we're in the down position. So that looks like you're dragging the tip across the ground. And then if I tilt it up, let me activate regular lockup. And so on this style, the whole blade kind of lights up from top to bottom. Yep. And then we'll go to the next font. I'll show you some of the blade effects. All right, and this is kind of like an energy blade. And so it's got some, I don't know, with the refresh rate on the camera, it doesn't accurately show these. But it's kind of like it converges in the middle to like a green. There you go. So it does that on that side and kind of goes in on both sides and comes to like a center green. Yeah, the animations on these new style generation sabers is just unreal. Can't wait to get your reaction on this. All right. So I think that pretty much covers the operation of the saber. Let me see if there's anything else I'm forgetting. Oh, I can go over the Rancor tooth real quick. So let me pull this out, blade out. Yep. And here's your Rancor tooth. And so if you want to, put this on display, of course, you can put it on either direction you want, up, down, sideways, it doesn't matter. It's just a press fit that just presses on the end of the pommel. So all you do is just push it on and it'll pop into place and it will not come off very easily without just kind of pulling it off again. But I didn't put any sound holes in it because I didn't want to like mess up kind of the integrity look of the whole thing. It looks pretty accurate and legit. And so I'll let you decide whether or not you want to take like a super tiny drill. And, if I were to do something like that, I would, target these areas right here. You can hear some sound out of this. It's just a little muffled. But you can maybe get in there with your drill bit here and here and here, all around and find strategic places. But I wanted to leave it alone as is, because I imagine you'll probably only use it for decoration. Of course, you can take it to Galaxy's Edge and it would, hold on with the cover tech, no problem. It would point in the upward direction because this is going to hang down like that. So there, that pretty much covers your Rancor tooth. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and then we're going to get into all the technical specs and how I did this build and some deeper level stuff on the chassis. All right, cool.